This is it. We can no longer turn our heads the other direction and pretend it's not happening. The once iconic American dream so many loyal patrons work towards is now crumbling down fast to meet them at face value, leaving behind the scars to prove it. As President Obama recently stated at a town hall meeting in Fort Myers, Florida, we have inherited an economic crisis as deep and as dire as any since the Great Depression. As discouraging as this may sound, it is not far from the truth. Since the dawn of its arrival, around 3.6 million jobs have been lost, with nearly 600,000 of those jobs cut just last month. This ultimately brings the economic powerhouse of the world at a staggering 7.6% unemployment rate, with places such as Elkhart, Indiana, in the double digits at around 15%. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, this however does not include all inmates of institutions, all persons on active duty in the armed forces, and another 2.1 million discouraged workers who have simply stopped seeking out a job. This has led to an increase in foreclosures by 225% since 2006, and in all 3.1 million households have submitted foreclosure filings in 2008. Needless to say, the attendance in homeless shelters has increased dramatically, putting many at risk in the already heightened suicide rate. We are living, breathing proof, willingly able to attest to the struggles we must face in the coming years, with millions already experiencing what we hope to avoid. But what then are we to do? With a crisis such as this stemming from the higher echelons of our bureaucratic society, it appears as if the only option available to us is to do nothing. Hoping to come out unscathed, many of us will be likely to sit by idly, waiting for it to ride out. But instead, let us uphold that promise that we, the American people, sent throughout this great country and beyond upon swearing in President Obama into the Oval Office to do our part. Let us commence into a new stage of rebuilding, starting with ourselves and the communities around us. We must find the strength to work harder than we may have ever worked before. Be prepared to make the sacrifices we must be required to make. And most importantly, we must find the empathy in our hearts to lend a hand to those who have fallen. There are over 2,000 food pantries and more than 100 homeless shelters throughout the state of Illinois, each one requesting our better efforts every day to accommodate those who have not been or are no longer fortunate enough to afford maintaining a roof over their head. It is clear that when one loses hope on their future, they lose hope on life itself. We have the power every day to remind them that we can be there for them in their times of need. With the food that goes to waste, the clothes that will never touch our backs, and with what time and energy we have to spare, we can take each one of those elements and utilize them to benefit those who have nothing. It is necessary that we grant assurance in order for them to be willing to carry on and once again contribute to society, either by receiving a standard wage, putting food on the table for their loved ones and family, and to live as a shining example that hope still exists. By doing this, we can save lives and evade tragedy. Now, I understand that we too are suffering from the drawbacks of the collapsing market. I do not ask any of you to go beyond your means, but to merely recognize any of the aforementioned elements that you are willing to sacrifice, and then to do what you can with that. While the scope of my aim may appear too large a task, remember it is the dreamers that bring the ingenuity to the table. It is the dreamers that show us that what was once perceived as impossible was then and is now possible. You can accomplish these things. We can accomplish these things. You are more capable than you rate your self-worth, and now is the time to prove it. Become a dreamer, make an impact.